Hello, everyone. My name is Carbon, and welcome back to Outmaneuver. I'm here with Jrod and his Dudeness today, looking at the first spoilers for Shadows of the Galaxy, which is set 2 of Star Wars Unlimited. We are so excited. We're just going to dive right in, starting with Moff Gideon, starter set leader. He's command villain. His front side has an action to attack with a unit that costs 3 or less. If it's attacking a unit, it gets +1/+0 for this attack. Gideon deploys at 5 resources and is a 3/6 Imperial official, both super relevant keywords, and he has Overwhelm on himself. And then his ability becomes each friendly unit that costs 3 or less gets +1/+0 and gains Overwhelm while attacking an enemy unit. So yeah, guys, what do we think about this new leader card?
But we finally have support for swarm strategy in villainy, outside IG-88, obviously.
Yeah, it's I was going to say.
A
I didn't
good
say inside the
comparison
void.
here outside
Yeah,
of you compare
I
this
mean,
IG-88, this is the guaranteed, but you can't swing base with this
yeah,
unless you get extra damage in with the overwhelm from the leader side.
yeah.
My favorite thing about this is it makes cards that are, like, harder to play sometimes, like the 2/3 what's the when defeated, when played, Scry 2 ship,
In front of
Inferno
four.
4.
Infinite
Yeah,
4. Like that card typically the downfall of that card is that it doesn't have 3 attack. But with Moff Gideon, it does have 3 attack, right? So it can trade into your opponent's turn 1 ship plays, like, and really provide a lot of value, and then, it makes that card a lot better when you're playing Gideon. So it's really interesting to see, like, what kind of cards that maybe weren't good enough because their stat lines were just too short to be really relevant, which are now good. Like the 2/3 Sword Trooper guy,
oh
he
yeah.
can attack for 3
Now
now,
you
and
can
then he's
trade it.
also the 4/3 later on. So now he's a little bit better with Moff Gideon. So it's interesting to see.
Well, and going first with Gideon too just is so good,
I'm gonna
right?
say that, yeah.
Because it's so difficult and sometimes to play a unit into these. It's the same situation where if both people have A wings, the person who went first gets to trade their A wing and kill the opponents and lives, right?
And it feels
So
really bad.
so going first is absolutely like critical in that scenario. And Gideon just threatens that all the time with pretty much all of his units. And so I love how interesting of a build around this is too. Like it like reminds me of Chewie a little bit, where it's like you really want to just have a lot of these cheap units to get advantage out of Gideon. So this card is this is really cool support for a more controlling swarm strategy as compared to like IG's more aggressive push the base swarm strategy. So
It
really
is
interesting to see that.
it is interesting to note though that trying to swarm anti-synergizes with trying to claim the initiative. And
True.
also using the ability to trade into your opponent's unit also anti-synergizes with you trying to claim the initiative, because then that removes an action they were going to do on their turn, which means they have fewer actions to do and are more likely to claim. So, yeah, and you really, really want to be going first with this ability. So there's a little bit of a give and take there.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, just another like quick thing before we move on here, but this is another section just how Darth and Luke are starter leaders and can't be used in draft. I'm very glad that this is a starter leader with a really cool effect, but he can't be used in draft because I feel like this ability in draft would be incredibly powerful.
Really good.
It'd be
Yeah,
really good. So
it'd
I
be
love that
absurd.
they have the design space to make these leaders that are really good in Premiere and can be played in Premiere, and we'll be able to play with them one time in the pre-release, but aren't going to be
Beautifully.
present in draft all the time and be taking over. So yeah, absolutely love this card. All right, moving on to the Mandalorian.
All right, here's the Mandalorian. He is a hero cunning leader that says when you play an upgrade, you may exhaust the leader, and if you do exhaust an enemy unit with 4 or less remaining HP, and he deploys at 6 or more resources, comes out as a 4/7 that has the same ability but may exhaust a unit with 6 or less remaining HP. He does have the Mandalorian and Bounty Hunter traits. He seems pretty cool, and with the new bounty cards that we'll see coming up, and even the capture ability, being able to exhaust, this guy seems like it could be pretty alright.
Yeah, there's a few cards we haven't shown yet that were revealed today that have some great synergy with him, including a couple new mechanics that we'll get talk about a little bit more. But just looking at it by itself, this is a really interesting card. The developers in the live stream just now were comparing it to like kind of Heroes version of Grand Admiral
Wrong.
Thrawn.
Yep.
Yeah, which I think is a good comparison. It like it the trigger condition is different, but it's like free, quote unquote, right? Because you don't have to pay any resources like Thrawn. You just play an upgrade. And we've seen some strategies that are upgrade centric, but they haven't been like super like I guess popular. Like Tarkin is probably the closest one that just plays a lot of experience, and Tarkin's very solid, but hasn't seen like an insane amount of like high level competitive play, anything like that.
Well,
Um,
Tarkin is a little different, right? Because he just
yeah, it is definitely different, but it's just like upgrade. I just mean upgrades in the terms of
it
like
would be
making
Chirrut,
big
which you're
things. And
thinking of.
yeah,
Chirrut would be
Cheer it just kind of buffs up himself quite a bit, and can be more of a like a what is the word, Exodia type leader, if that makes sense. So it is this is a really interesting card. This one I think is going to be a lot harder to evaluate until we see most of the set compared to Gideon. Gideon is a lot more straightforward versus Mandalorian has a lot of potential synergy with upgrade cards. We just need to see more upgrade cards. I guess. Yeah, Jared, what do you think about this boy?
I mean, I think he's solid. I think he's offers an interesting kind of like tempo based / control based deck for heroism that we haven't really seen yet, which hopefully means that we're going to get more mid range and control cards for the heroism side of the spectrum, because it's mostly been villainy that's got most of that, and I think it's going to be really interesting and fun to kind of have some diverse like hero control decks and villain control decks, and kind of see how that works out. So he definitely kind of screams to me that there's going to be more of that in the set.
Right.
Yeah, that I'm very excited for sure. All right, so moving on to Razor Crest.
Yep. So Razor Crest is a 4-cost heroism vigilance ship space unit. It's a 3 attack, 4 defense Mandalorian vehicle transport for its subtext. It has Restore 2, and then when played, you may return an upgrade from your discard pile to your hand. So obviously this works great with the Mandalorian, picking back the upgrades that you want to be able to exhaust more units. Also, just a 4-cost 3/4 in space is pretty reasonable, and it's kind of like on average what the ships have been costing for this.
For this cost.
Thank you, this cost. And having Restore 2 is massive as well. Again, really proving that this time around, I think that we're going to see a lot of mid-range cards for heroism, which we've been really missing, I think, in the first couple sets. So I
And
think this card's really good, and for a special card or starter card, I think this is probably one of the
solid.
better ones that we've seen out
Yeah,
of
I
even set 1 and set 2.
100% agree with that. Like this feels like borderline rare territory,
Yeah.
actually.
I mean, it's great. I think this is just a great all around solid card. Like it's just the stat line's good. 4 is kind of that health point that you want to have, so it's not dying to any of the early ships. Similar to how we have like System Patrol Craft is pretty annoying to get through with that 4. And that was like you said, the Restore 2 is really good, and it's like some card advantage potentially, right? If you just get that upgrade back.
Yeah, I
Um,
imagine we're gonna get you can get bounties. You haven't seen the bounties yet, but there's
yeah,
a
we
bounty.
we're getting there. We're getting there. We're going down the
Nice.
list.
That is
Yeah.
one of the upgrades I assume you're gonna be getting back from this.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a really cool card, and personally so excited to play with this card. Like this is so cool, and I can see a number of decks that are like that would want this as their like kind of mid range space unit for sure. All right, so moving on to Calculated Lethality. This is a card I was really excited to see. This card. This is probably my favorite card of the ones we saw today. It's a 4-cost vigilance villainy event. It's a tactic, and it says defeat a non-leader unit that costs 3 or less. For each upgrade that was on that unit, give an experience token to a friendly unit. So the idea is this is the first time we've seen cost-based removal. We've seen like just straight up damage. We've seen health-based removal, but this is the first time we have cost-based removal, which I had kind of really hoped that they would add to the game, and had even made like a custom card that was like a very similar effect to this. And so I was really excited to see this type of effect in the game. So, I mean, in terms of how strong it is, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm sure Jared has his opinion on this already. I know for sure. So,
I mean,
Car-
the dev stated something in the stream earlier about the wing leader menace, right? The devs definitely played against a wing leader on an A wing a few times, and this just feels like an exact counter to that. And for me personally, I'm a little sad about it. Do I think people are going to be playing this main deck? Yet to be seen. Do I think it could see some play in the sideboard? Probably.
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, my issue with this card is that you're never paying 4 to remove a 3 cost unless it's upgraded. So, and then if you have it in your sideboard, they're just not gonna play that card, right? So like they're never gonna play Wing Leader, they'll just resource it. So I think because of that, it's like in closed deck list kind of games where they don't know your list, you can probably just not play it. But an open list, like you have to kind of play it so they don't play the wing leader kind of thing. The same thing with Way, like same kind of concept where like you don't want to play into it if you can avoid it. But yeah, I don't think this card's that great personally for like competitive play. It's interesting and fun, like concept, and definitely with all the new upgrades that will likely be in this set, that it'll probably maybe see some sideboard play. That's kind of like the extent of where I think it'll be
Yeah.
though.
I mean, this have synergy with bounties.
Yeah, it could have some potential
You
synergy there as
cash
well.
in,
So
you can cash in your bounties. You put 'em on.
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think like this card. I don't see it really being a 3 copies card in a deck, but I can definitely see a 1 or 2 of this deck. And it's nice to have like alternative answers for these upgraded units, right? Instead of like yellow has like waylay, and then there's some other upgrade removal cards, like there's Fang Fighter. So I like that this is kind of an answer to that for blue villain, right? You have it their own. I mean, you used to have stuff like Power of the Dark Side before, but this is different. It's a different card. So even if this card is not like the best card ever, I'm just really glad that we have this type of effect in the game. I think it's really cool. All right, so moving on to Phase 3 Dark Trooper.
Yes, sir. Phase 3 Dark Trooper. 3 cost command villainy. 3/3 Sentinel. Imperial Droid Trooper that says when combat damage is dealt to this unit, give an experience token to this unit if it survives the damage. So either if they attack a bunch of small dudes into it, they gain some extra experience, or more likely you're going to attack into one of someone's small dude to gain the experience yourself. Obviously, the comparison is to cell block guard. It's the same, but just better in every single way. But as it should be, because this requires a second aspect, where a cell block guard is just a single aspect. So the way the game is designed, the double aspect should be better than the single aspect comparison. But I think this card is pretty cool though.
Yeah, I mean it's essentially just kind of a strict upgrade in these colors, at least a strict
Yeah,
upgrade
it's
to the
just
cell block
upgrade.
guard. And I think any deck that was playing cell block guard before in these colors will be happy to switch to this card as soon as it comes out in set 2 for sure.
I mean, it's still an Imperial Trooper, which is kind of important for the first set 1 stuff. Vader can pull it, which is important, and Vader does enjoy pulling Sentinels a lot of the times, because the big issue with Vader is like you play him and then he's gets attacked back and then he dies, which is not the end of the world, but like if you can protect that and keep him around to also hit the base for 5, it's pretty good as well. So while I don't think this card's going to be nuts, I definitely could see it being played a little bit in that kind of.
All right, well, moving on to Grogu Irresistible.
So the little homie is a 2 cost cunning heroism 0/5 ground unit. It is a force and it has an action on it. It says exhaust this and you may exhaust an enemy unit. I think this card is actually bananas and actually might be the best card in the starter so far. I think people really underestimate the power because it doesn't say a non-leader, it just says an enemy unit, which means that your opponent's going to have to attack it, and they're not going to be able to attack it unless they have like a fleet lieutenant on turn 2. So he's likely going to survive one, and if you can then protect him a little bit, he can just exhaust things. And if you have initiative, he can just exhaust your opponent's turn 1 play. So if you have fleet lieutenant, you can't actually kill it yet because you have to wait till another round. So this goes back to my theme of hero control / mid range, getting a lot of tools in this set, and I think he's going to be a very important card so far from what I'm seeing for set 2.
I mean,
Yeah,
both
definitely.
this and the Mandalorian leader seem
Yeah.
pretty strong.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that yellow hero was already the weakest color, right? But these cards are already kind of bangers
Mhm.
Yeah,
that
we're
can
seeing
bring those
seeing
back
some
into
great
competitive play, right?
yeah, some great support for I definitely I kind of agree that cunning heroism has just been the it hasn't performed the greatest. There's definitely some good cards, like Falcon in particular is really strong in those colors, but we haven't had anything too insane. And Grogu, I think, is phenomenal. I'm super excited to play this card. I'm a Chewbacca guy, and so I'm now gonna give Grogu Sentinel, and I have a 0/5 Sentinel. It's like, well, if you don't kill him, well, now I'm gonna start exhausting your stuff next turn. I think this card is awesome. So yeah, really looking forward to playing with Grogu. So
Now, I do need to note that the art on Grogu shows 4 fingers,
Oh, sorry.
and if you're familiar with actually Grogu, you should only have 3. So, you know,
It
it's
is
like
well, dude, this is Star Wars Unlimited, bro. He's got an unlimited number of fingers.
unlimited fingers, clearly.
No, but yeah, but
Just just a little bit of research into the character you're drawing would have been, but it's fine.
So we've been referencing a card that all these things want to use. What is that card, Carbon?
all right, so we have Wanted, which is a 0 cost cunning upgrade that gives +0/+0, and this is going to introduce one of the first of 3 new mechanics that are coming in Shadows of the Galaxy, and that is Bounty. So the card reads: attached unit gains bounty ready to friendly resources. And so bounty happens when the opponent that defeats or captures, we'll look at captures in just a minute, that unit gets the effect of the bounty. So in this case, you would play bounty for 0 on an enemy unit, and after you defeat it or capture it, you get to ready 2 resources, which is such I love this mechanic. This is such a cool idea and a great way to use upgrades. Like, we've already seen some uses where you play upgrades on your opponent's stuff, and this is expanding on that idea in a really fun and unique way.
And then this will trigger the Mandalorian
Yeah. Oh yeah.
leader ability, right? So this is what I was trying to say. It synergizes really well with this. You're putting out bounties. Now they're exhausted. And as we're about to see with the Mandalorian's rifle, that card can capture exhausted units. So even more synergy there.
Well, let's just say you can bring them in cold or you can bring them in warm. I think it's the other way around.
I think
Yeah,
the bounty mechanic is pretty
Yeah.
cool. Danny already mentioned on the stream. He mentioned, drawing cards. It's an obvious thing that bounties could reward. There's a lot of different things that it can do, and it's kind of sky's the limit there because we have no idea what the got in store for us in the set. But I'm excited about the bounty mechanic. It seems cool, and I really want to play a Mandalorian deck with a bunch of bounties now. Honestly,
Yeah. Well, and it being 0 cost is super relevant with Razor Crest, because like being able to bounce that back to your hand from your discard pile and then play it for free that same turn is really nice as well. So seeing these 0 cost upgrades, potentially more 0 cost upgrades and across colors that have bounty, is going to be really exciting to see. So, all right, and then next up we have the Mandalorian's rifle.
yep. As I already mentioned, it's a 3-cost heroism upgrade that gives +3/+0, and you must attach it to a friendly non-vehicle unit. And when played, if attached unit is the Mandalorian, he captures an exhausted enemy non-leader unit. And capturing just puts that card face down under the unit that captures it and stays there until the unit that captured it leaves play. So it's already got synergy with Mandalorian. When you play this, you can exhaust something and then capture it right away. So like, it could be any cost unit, which I think is going to be pretty huge. If you play this on the Mandalorian himself, he just becomes a 7/7. He's a 7/7 boy that captured your best unit on the field, including one that they just played. Like, if they just play a big sentinel to try to slow you down, you can just capture them and laugh in their face. I think this capture ability is going to be pretty busted. Like, this is huge tempo swings here, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
just 3, and if I had a wanted on your dude and I capture the boy and you play a 6-cost sentinel, well, I just spend 1 resource total to capture your boy and have a 7/7 Mandalorian on the field, and can swing for that plus spend another 5 resources. So
Yeah.
like
I mean,
capture
this card is great. I mean, there's nothing really you can say about it. But the one thing is, I wasn't sure if it was non-leader or not when I first saw it. I'm kind of glad it's non-leader because I think it'd be too good
Yeah.
if it was
He
leader.
Tyler did mention on the stream that the capture mechanic is like the waylay or bounce mechanic, in which
Yeah.
it will always say non-leader.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is a good thing in my opinion, because it'd be
Yeah.
really strong
Yeah,
otherwise.
that would be
Yeah.
not good the other way.
So taking a look at Gideon's light cruiser.
This is an 8-cost, just villainy space unit, 7 attack, 8 health, Imperial vehicle capital ship with the keyword overwhelm. And then when played, if you control Moff Gideon as a leader or a unit, you may play a villainy unit that costs 3 or less, looking at you, Dark Trooper, from your hand or discard pile for free. So this is kind of like a home one, but it's kind of like it's like your home one at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still good, and it's obviously only a villainy card, but you can only get things that cost 3 or less. Where like Home 1 allows you to pay for bigger stuff if you get to super late game. But I mean, if we get better to 3 cost stuff, which I assume we will, because Gideon wants it and so does this, that this card will be pretty relevant and pretty good as well. It's still 7-8 overwhelms, nothing to sneeze at. I know folks love to put their little like 3/4 Sentinel boy out there to like stop things, but like this is like great, cool, kill that thing and deal 3 to your base is still pretty massive. And you're in takedown range at that point, but I don't know, it is what it is. You've also gotten the 3 cost back. This card just seems really good, and actually I think might be somewhat playable if Gideon's a reasonable leader.
Yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing. I mean, there's a few differences between it's Home 1, but it's like that's the biggest thing is that you're kind of locked into playing Moff Gideon with it because you don't otherwise get the one plate effect. But I think in that deck, I think it's going to be a great card in that deck for sure.
The same with the Mandalorian's rifle, right? Like you're not playing that outside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But if you do, it seems like an auto include a bit more so than the lightsabers did for the original starters.
Yeah. And then finally, our last card. So this is a legendary card. Our first legendary card from the set is the Mandalorian unit. So it's a 6-cost vigilance heroism unit. It's a 5/6 Mandalorian bounty hunter with Sentinel, and has the ability when played, you may heal all damage from a unit that costs 2 or less and give 2 shield tokens to it. The first synergy that comes to mind is Grogu immediately making Grogu essentially unkillable with 2 shields. 2 shields. They said it on, I think it was Tyler that said on stream today, 2 shields is a lot of shields.
Yeah.
That's really annoying to potentially chew through. I think Dudeness had brought up that if we get a cheap Sentinel card that's getting 2 shield tokens, that's going to be one of the most annoying things to deal with in this set is if it gets 2 shields. So I think this card is really interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think this card definitely needs some other cards to be good.
Yeah.
Like just its raw power isn't there. Like I wouldn't put this in the tier of like Luke and Vader, but like I could see this being on similar power level to like Boba Fett. I will say that this card does do something when it enters a play that could be relevant. It's gonna matter on how relevant that when played ability is.
Yeah.
Because just paying 6 for a 5/6 Sentinel is fine, but it's not great. Like we've had Obi-Wan and he was like fine but not great, and he even had a when defeated effect, which is good in a Sentinel because you have to attack them, right? But like this guy, if you miss the when play, he's just a 5/6 Sentinel. So he'll definitely depend on what kind of Sentinels we have at 2 cost, or what kind of cards we have at 2 costs. Because just doing Grogu, even that's not amazing, right? Because he doesn't have any attacks. So like your opponents can just attack him for free. So they don't really mind if you have the shields or whatever. So it'll be.
I like Mandalorian on cards that have just like some static ongoing effect, like Regional Governor or Grogu, right? They can keep, impacting the board without really needing to attack. Or I like this on stuff that has something that has like 3 attack that's trading and getting a lot of value out of those shields. I think both those. I mean, like I said, that's why it's a legendary. Is that the effect is much more niche, much more build around. But I think when we get the cards to build around, that this card is going to be pretty good, I think. So it's really interesting to see. So that is all the cards that we received today, but we did get a preview of a bunch of different really cool artworks for the game that are going to appear in set 2. I'm sure we're probably going to show some of them on the screen right now. There's a bunch of different recognizable characters like Lando Calrissian, the armor, Cad Bane, Enfys Nest. There's so many there's the artwork already looks so good in this set.
Honestly, it seems pretty fire.
And one of the big things that my friend Cqrbon here missed is that there's a mall.
Yeah,
and
I did miss out on that. There is a Darth Maul.
Well, hold on.
artwork.
No. There might not be a Darth Maul, my friend.
Sorry.
This
Sorry.
version is just Maul. So please use the correct terminology when referring to him.
Okay.
This is Shadows of the Galaxy. This is not Episode 1 Maul. This is Shadows of the Galaxy Maul, which I assume means he's going to have something to do with the crime syndicate that he was a part of from the Solo movie, if I had to guess.
They said that this set's not limited to any specific things, but there's a big focus on stuff from The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and the Solo movie. So we definitely are going to see, we have like Enfys Nest, and the Lando art is very clearly from Like it's like almost one for one from the
It's young
Solo movie.
Lando.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
young Lando. So, and there's obviously we've seen a bunch of stuff from Mandalorian just with those cards we reviewed. But also here you have the armor, you have some of the villagers from one of the first episodes in the first season. Yeah. And so yeah, this is so cool to see. Just like the art just looks fantastic. These cards look fantastic. And yeah, I think I speak for all of us when I say we're really excited to see more from this set.
I will
So
say, I know there's a lot of folks that were like not hopping into the game because the art in the first set was sometimes a little suspect. And now some people disagree with that, but I would say the art wasn't the best in set one. So far from what I've seen from set two, this is the very opposite end of the spectrum, and it's all been amazing. Like there hasn't been really a single art that I've been like, I don't know about that one. They've all been like amazing and gorgeous. And if art was your reason for not playing this game, I'm curious to hear what your reason is now, because you have no other reason not play the game.
yeah. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll be talking about some of the mechanics and stuff more on our podcast, which is every Monday morning. So yeah, be sure to stay tuned, subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.